Welcome, Logan. Can we start off by just introducing yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a quick intro. I've been running my own businesses for the last about 14 years, I think. And in that time, I think in the early days, I was like working really hard, and I was trying to basically break my back to prove that I was, worth the air that I breathe. And as time went by, I started to realize that this is futile for me to do this, and I decided to take a different route, take a different approach, and that approach was basically to try to do a lot less but more effective. And so over the years, I've developed this, I guess, framework, for the lack of a better word, for generating as much leverage out of my time as possible, so that I can work like 3 or 4 hours a day, sometimes less, but generate a substantial income, but also have built a team and these things. So at the moment, I work with my wife. We run a headhunting company for e-commerce brands, where we help e-com brands headhunt the top 1% of talent in the Philippines, specifically because my previous company had been scaled an e-commerce brand, and we built our team in the Philippines. So we have some very specific processes for how to find really good talent.
Cool. We're definitely going to get into Willbound, and we're going to spend most of the time talking about now. But I do want to touch on the period of wanting to prove yourself, because you've got like I think it's like 12 plus. You had 12 plus years of experience in e-com and software
Mm.
before you started. Well, so there's a lot of experience there to be able to kind of then try this new system. So I just want to kind of go through your journey a little bit first. So 2012, you started Bazinga, which was app development consultancy.
Yeah.
Um, what mindset were you in at the time? How old were you? What made you start it? And then like what did you try to land your first clients? And then what actually stuck? What enabled you to kind of get some traction?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a really opportune time for mobile app development, which is what we were doing. And right prior to starting that, I was a sales guy, and I've been working a few different sales jobs, and I think I was pretty good at it. And I got picked up by a couple of younger guys who wanted a sales manager for their software development company. And so I was like, yeah, cool, that sounds awesome. And, good commissions and good base salary. And so we got started, and things were going really, really well. But I started to notice that they weren't doing things the right way. They were burning a lot of clients. And this was starting to feel like this is going to have an impact on me and my reputation. And so I decided to leave. And I started, this was right at the time when mobile app development was booming. And so I started Bazinga with a mate, and it was just started off as like two guys in the spare room of a house, just trying to figure things out. We were trying to build our own app, and as we would go around talk to people, because we weren't shy about sharing our ideas, go around talking to people. Turns out everyone wanted to build an app, and so it was just this process of sharing. Like essentially like, this was before LinkedIn, so I think, or before LinkedIn, it was really, really popular. It's just sharing how we do now, like LinkedIn posts and DMs and stuff, but in real life about what we're doing. And that generated, I guess, because the market was hot and there was more demand than supply, that it was just so easy to get customers. And that was like the first informal way that we started generating customers. But then as time went by, we had to formalize things a bit more. We had not a lot of competitors, but we had some strong competitors, and everyone seemed to basically run Google ads, and like Facebook ads didn't even exist at this point. So it was like everything was Google ads, and uh, like we just couldn't afford it, and I didn't understand how Google ads worked anyway. So, but the thing that we could afford was I could afford to spend a bit of time and write some blog articles. So I started doing that. Like that was the only thing that I did. I just wrote blog articles, and I wrote one or two, I think it was one blog article per week. And within time, they started to rank on the search engine on Google, and and that generated traffic to our piece of shit website. and but like it started to convert, and we were starting to get leads, and eventually just doing this one thing every day, right? Sorry, every week, just writing a blog article and publishing it. And they were long articles, like 1 to 3,000 words, sometimes longer. Um, that eventually we started to generate like 150 leads a month, like sometimes 200 leads a month, like sales ready leads, people who are inquiring to
Yeah.
work with us. And yeah, I mean, so that's the early days of how we acquire clients.
Cool. So you were sales guy, then you started to you found the market was hot, then you started to learn mobile apps, and then you were like, we can't compete on ads and paid channels, so so then it was like you became a bit of a marketer then,
Yeah.
and then did you? I'll just ask a super quick question because a bit of a side note, but with SEO, were you writing based off like your own interest level because you were like in learning it yourself, and so you go, oh, that's quite a niche topic and I'm learning about that, so I'll share? Or did you really have like a strategy of like create the topic clusters and make it for kind of the audience?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, I'll be honest. I'm maybe not the most uh, intentionally strategic person that you'll ever meet. I fumble my way through a lot of things, and I'm just incredibly lucky in that fumbling seems to work. And what I was writing about were the things that I was learning about, which was UI UX. It was about the latest SDKs, like software development kits that were being released, and new tools. There was a period where A/B testing became a thing in mobile apps, and analytics and these types of things, and how to like acquire your first 1,000 users, and these types of things. These are just what I was learning about, and it just happens to be that a lot of those topics were trending, later on, when we hired a staff writer, and things became a little bit more formalized, then it became more strategic. We would base our content schedule off of actual research, keyword research and stuff like that. But in the beginning it was just like I was just going for it.
You know what? It's crazy, isn't it? Because it shows the power of being on a trend. Like some people are like, don't start a boring business, don't be part of a trend. But when you're with what I noticed is that when I was starting out, I started like cold. I had no money. I was web design and like I was trying all the channels. But if you try and do SEO and web design now, you're competing against all the web designers out there. So I must have written 200 articles that I've like properly like and nothing. And then the other day, c- GTM is moving at rapid paces, so a new tool gets launched, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn that tool, and I write an article, and then bang, spike in traffic. So it just goes to show like the opportunity with like when you're like writing like SEO with trends rather than like established kind of markets.
Yeah. And
Um,
I've done this
yeah,
every single time, and it's been a complete accident. So the first time was with this mobile app development company. We just rode this trend. And then the second time was with this e-commerce brand. So we were selling hair extensions, but it was a particular type of hair extension that started to trend as we started to sell it. And e-commerce was also trending. So it was like, just rode that up. And now with Willbound doing the headhunting for Philippine talent is trending like crazy, especially in places like e-commerce. And it's been a complete accident. It was just like, right person, right time. I didn't mean to, so
yeah. It's incredible. It's happened a couple of times. We're gonna the couple more questions. I do want to kind of get onto sitting pretty and other stuff, but we will spend the bulk on Willbound and we'll talk about all that stuff. So Bazinga app development did that, and then 2 years in started sitting pretty beauty so beauty and ecom hair extensions. Can you talk through like why you started that business? You were running them both alongside each other. Yeah, what made you start that? And then also as well, like as you were kind of going from Bazinga and starting sitting pretty and then establishing, like how were you changing as well as like an entrepreneur? Because I know you've been through a bit of a journey as well.
yeah, yeah. Um, so Bazinga, I think that started in 2012. I ran that, and I was really like in the beginning. I was just really, really enthusiastic and curious. And then eventually that kind of became like I was trying to be this like successful entrepreneur guy, and I wanted to be so important, and ultimately I just wanted to. It was a I had a I had an insecurity about myself, and I was overcompensating for this, insecurity, um, and that was coming into my work. So I was basically using my work as a medium for my overcompensation, and I'm sure there's like a million other people who relate to that, because we all do it, to one degree or another. Um, and then so the way that Sitting Pretty started was it was a co-foundership between me and my business partner, and she had the interest in hair extensions, not me, because it's not a not, it wasn't a product that was close to my heart.
Thanks for clarifying that one, yeah.
Are not hair extensions, just weed. Um, and but it started off as a studio. It was just a small studio, um, one or two clients, maybe three clients a day. It was very very minor. There wasn't much going on, and it was like maybe sorry, I should say maybe four or five clients a week. It was very very quiet. And then so I started getting more involved in that. I was just initially I just put money into it because I had a little bit of spare money, but I just put that into it to buy stock, to help to streamline the supply chain, because basically my business partner was importing the hair, sewing the hair in the home studio, and then putting it on the person's head. And I was like, well, why don't we get that all sewed at the point of manufacturing when the hair is sourced, and then bring them in and they're like ready made, then put it straight on. So it was just a few things like this to streamline it, and then eventually like let's get it packaged over there. Like when we went e-commerce, um, e-commerce only came much later. It came after my company Bazinga went into liquidation, and so the long and the short of that is that um, I had been trying to prove myself, and I got like a bit big headed because I thought that we're doing so well because I'm so brilliant. And I think my business partner and that company kind of thought the same thing in their software development agency. We're doing so well because we're so fucking smart. But in actuality, like we were doing a lot of good things, but in actuality, a lot of our fortune was as a result of the industry growing at such a rapid pace. It was easy money, and I just got yeah, just a little bit bedazzled by myself. So when that industry started to turn was around about the same time when I started to like click on like, oh, I'm actually not that clever. I have been very arrogant. Uh, my business partner and I, we connect on this. We're very, very similar on this. And I'm actually starting to realize that he's not he's not a good influence on me, you know. And there was a lot of like lack of transparency, dishonesty, and stuff going on between us, but also across the from us to the whole team and to the clients. And I started to realize this, and I didn't want to do that anymore. Like once I realized, I was like, that's not really me. That's not who I am. Like maybe I've learned this along the way, but that's not who I am, and it's not who I want to be going forward. And so I started to distance myself from him, and then I decided I will exit this company. I don't want to be part of this anymore because this is not. I don't have control. I was not the he was like much older than me, and so I didn't have control. So I decided I would leave that company. In the process of leaving that company, I think I resigned, and then 9 months later, 6 months later, the company started to really struggle, without me, but also as a result of the market going backwards. Um, and then the company went into liquidation 9 months later. So it was at that point that I decided, uh, like once I resigned, I decided to start focusing on Sitting Pretty. At this point, Sitting Pretty was a studio. It was a very small home studio, so it wasn't like there was not much going on. And I just turned my attention to it. Everything that I learned here, SEO, lead generation, conversion rate optimization. I'm just going to do it here. Systems, technology. I'm just going to start doing it here. And it took like no time at all. And then suddenly, like this, like a hockey stick. It went from doing like almost nothing, like literally almost nothing, to 165,000 a month in the space of around, I think it was like 10 months or something like that, maybe 11. Um, which is quite fast. And if you think about that, that was 10 years ago now. Adjust for the rate of inflation, especially over the last little while, has been massive. It's probably 2x. So you're thinking like 300 rand in 10 months. It was like pretty crazy. But my approach at this point was, again, like I had been killing myself. I had earned a lot of gray hairs, and I was thinking like this is probably not going to be sustainable long term. Um, and so I took a different approach, and the approach was I'm not going to work that much. I want to work like 25 hours a week. And the plan was to 25 hours a week and want to get to like 50,000 a month. And we obviously busted through the 50,000 a month pretty quickly within like 4 months or something. And I was only working, by the end of that, I was only working about 2 to 4 hours a week. So that was kind of cool.
And this is sorry, this is still sitting pretty. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. And so the bit I'm really interested in now is then because you had a team of you had a Filipino team, didn't you?
Yeah.
In that company, and that fed a lot into why you then started Willbound. So can we just talk through like um that idea? And I know there was a story about how you helped someone else with their team, and then you got a bunch of referrals, and it kind of just accidentally happened. So how that kind of like transitioned through.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, originally my team was, I had one guy in the Philippines, and eventually that became a couple more. But that was through a BPO, a business process outsourcing company. So these companies where you pay someone a monthly fee, and then they'll hire somebody, and they're hired through this third party. Yeah, I was working through one of these companies, and I was just finding that the the talent was, okay, but I was, why am I paying this guy rent on my own staff? Simultaneously, I had contractors who were like full time staff, but they were contractors in Australia. I hired one in Canada, Serbia, one in Sweden. Like they were like a little bit all over the place, because I was a little bit all over the place, and I was traveling and stuff. Um, and then as time went by, we were hiring more and more and more in the Philippines. But I, like everybody else, I had this perception that like people in the Philippines, they can only do, certain level of tasks, and then beyond that, it's not possible. And uh, like I hate that I had that view, but I guess it's just what we're exposed to, which is a lower level of task, um, doers, in the Philippines. That's what we're exposed to. Um, Call center people, et cetera, et cetera. This is like the majority of the business process outsourcing world in the Philippines. Um, and they do great work, but to a certain level. Um, but then it came a point where we just had this idea in the team, or I had this idea that what if I was able to find someone who's like really, really good in the Philippines? There's 120 million people in the Philippines. Like, there's people who are running like IBM over there. There's people like Canva has the main body count in the Philippines, and Thrasio, which is an aggregator of e-commerce brands. So we've got hundreds of brands that are doing like, millions each. So they've got their main body count in the Philippines as well. Surely I can find someone, and I haven't seen any of that type of talent from my own recruiting processes. So we decided to take a different approach, and the approach was simply this. It's so stupid when I tell you. It's so simple. The best talent is not on onlinejobs.ph. It's not on Upwork, right? If you can, I understand that that's not where the best talent goes. That's where people go when they're desperate for a job. or then when they really want a job. Yeah, generalizing, not that's not a rule, but that's generalizing. So if you want to hire the best people, the top 1%, you have to go to the richest vein of talent. And what we found was the richest vein of talent is working somewhere else. They're already employed. So
Kitchen. Yeah.
right, so we just started, I don't like using the P word, that we started poaching, and that was game changing. In the early days we were fumbling around, doing God knows what. But with time, it started to become more refined, and so in those early days, we were able to find some really really good hires and set the company up. And once the company was set up, we had the right people in the right. We had general manager, we had marketing manager, we had all the right people in the right seats. And I mean, I wasn't working, so I was like, what am I going to do? I was getting really bored. I'd spent like 8 years of my life not working, so and it was pretty cool, but it got really boring, especially when I met my wife. And she's working, and I'm like at home doing nothing every day. And then so I almost started getting a little bit depressed, and then one day, my friend Josh, is his name, he contacted me, and we had a call, and he was like, I can't believe you're only working, like 2 or 4 hours a week, or I don't understand. Like I say 5 to 10 hours, but that's actually conservative, because I was working a lot less than that most of the time. So he's like, I can't believe you're working so little. Um, how did you do it? La la la. And he basically was just asking, like picking my brains, and I'm like, well, you have to have the right people in your team. Oh, okay, well, because he was asking, is it about processes? I'm like, yeah, processes are important, but any idiot can write a process. But like, if your process is create amazing ad creative, like you're going to have someone who can do that. So the most important thing is that you have the right people on your team. If you don't have the right people on the team who can solve those high level problems, those problems become your problems, and that's why you end up working more. So so ultimately it boils down to people. And he's like, oh, okay, so how do I do that? And I'm like, fuck, like I've spent years figuring this out. Like I can't even. I can tell him, but he's not going to remember, 10% of it. So I said, after I explained, I was like, yeah, I can just help you out. We've got some spare resources. I can help you find some people. What are you looking for? And he goes, oh, I need a general manager, this and that and that. It's got 5 people. I didn't expect that it was going to be so many. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can help you out. He said, I'll pay you. Like, okay. So so we did it. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was like a gesture of, it was yeah, more like symbolic. Um, and we found him those 5 roles, and he was stoked. He was super happy, and then so he put me on to this couple of other guys, and I didn't realize, but these guys knew each other. But he put me on to, so his 2 clients. He was running an ad agency. He also had an e-commerce brand on the side. But see, he put us onto these 2 guys, and they were both running e-commerce brands each. And we ended up hiring 27 people for those 2 guys. And the reason why I aggregate that is because one guy ended up buying the company of the other guy. So you know so we ended up hiring 27 people for them. But in the course of doing that, over 6 months or something, they put us on to a bunch of other people. And so we ended up having all these referrals, and they were all referring each other. And it just became this like massive thing, because I didn't realize, but what we were doing was really, really unique. We were finding like really hard to reach talent for e-commerce brands, where they can have the same level of output as if they were hiring a top 1% person in their own country, in the US or in Australia, but at 75% less cost, which is a pretty significant opportunity. And so the I guess the surprise to me was that they were actually, because this was such a like, oh wow, this is so cool. They would go, how as founders we all go to like dinners, and we have like little group dinners with each other, and you share whatever's working in your business right now. They were sharing about us at Willbound, and so that would then turn into referrals. So that was really cool. Just an accident.
You know what? I think Naval said the other day, he said, you know, you do sales when marketing's failed, and you do marketing when products failed. And it's like you basically figured out what, like, so you'd cracked that kind of game, and then it goes to show you, you didn't really need to do any marketing. You just needed to solve it for one person, and the referral game just, it just went out. But I guess my question to you would be, because I remember you saying about like you were like, when you looked at the Philippines, like up to a certain point, about the richest vein. Why not the richest vein in another country? Like, why were you adamant? Was it what? And then that kind of ties into like, what are the main drivers? Is it just cost, or is it actually like there is a real vein of talent in the Philippines that you can? Is there a talent thing as well going on there? Like, what are all kind of the factors?
Yeah.
Yeah, that influence like why Willbound is a better solution than say top 1% in say another country.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and look, maybe there is another country that has really, really good talent as well. And I know that there's Latin America is booming. I know that Africa is booming, and different areas of Asia are booming. The reason why we went with the Philippines is, I guess, two reasons. One is because I already had experience with the Philippine people, and better the devil you know. Once you know how a certain culture responds to questions, then you understand how to work with that. um, every culture has its own um, idiocracies, so in India, for example, certain parts of India, if I ask someone, can you do this, they'll say that they can, even if they can't. And this is not something I can mentally deal with. So I was like, okay, it's not going to be India, But some people, I have a friend. He's hired a lot of people in India. Loves working with Indian people, and so I think it's each to their own. Then the other thing is, and I think India and the Philippines, in terms of this next thing, are very similar. And the next thing that is infrastructure. So India and the Philippines have been the business process outsourcing, um, the main hubs for that in the whole world for a very long time, 30 plus years, I think 35 years. And so the infrastructure has been built specifically for this. Like the Philippine government puts a lot of their effort into ensuring that the internet's really strong, the power's really good, and they do have power outages, but everywhere in the third world countries have massive power outages. Comparatively, in the Philippines, is not that bad. Um, Especially when you hire in the main hubs like Manila or Cebu, or the main cities. Um, and so between India and the Philippines, aside from just the and both of those hubs are very, very inexpensive. Whereas Latin America is a bit like it's usually around 20 or 30% more expensive compared to the Philippines, depending also on where you look. But say Argentina and Mexico, which are the main business process outsourcing hubs in Latin America, a bit more expensive. But say with India and the Philippines, they're what was the point I was going to make? I think the infrastructure is, yeah, it's just really, really strong infrastructure. But in India, they're they've been, I guess, more so building on their IT specialty. So if you're an IT company, you would probably have a team in India. A SaaS company, you would probably have a team in India because they have such strong IT experience. Whereas in the Philippines, it's been mostly business outsourcing, creative work, media buying, this type of thing. And that's why for e-commerce, that's a really, really good place to hire. Um, but I think when you're working with such big numbers, so in India, you've got over a billion people, I think, and then the Philippines is like 120 million people. When you're working with such massive numbers of people, it doesn't really matter anymore, like where's the best specialty, unless you're looking at hiring hundreds or thousands of people, um, because you're going to find what you need. So if you said to me, Logan, I need to find somebody who is a analytics master for this very like niche uh, I don't know, Power BI analytics tool, and I want to find them in the Philippines. I'll tell you, like right now, without batting an eyelid, I'll find you that person. No worries, because 100% they're over there. Are there more in India? Probably. but we're already talking about such big numbers. Um, so there's a cost factor. The cost is really good. There's a culture factor. The culture is very similar to ours, although obviously I'll come back to that point. And then there's the readiness of the talent and the infrastructure. So bang for buck, and then the cost overall. Bang for buck in the Philippines, you just for me, it's just the best place at the moment, and probably just given the trend, it's probably going to be the best place for the next 10 years.
Cool. Yeah, that was a really good answer. Um, cool. Cool. So SaaS maybe aligns a little bit more with India, ecom. They're more creative, more Philippines. But like you say, um, there is there is a huge pool there still. If you wanted to find a SaaS person in Philippines, like that, you'll definitely find someone.
Yeah,
That you mentioned, and we talked about finding talent. So you find talent. The best place to find it is good people working at good companies, right? That makes sense. So finding talent in the Philippines, then there's like attracting them. Like, why do they want to kind of listen to Willbound and like and kind of engage in some like DMs and then pulling them closer and then actually like on the client side like retaining them. Like, how do you handle those three parts of I don't want to call you you're not a recruitment company, are you? I don't know what the term is, but yeah,
Hunter.
how do you handle those kind of three parts?
Yeah, yeah. So we're a headhunting company.
Headhunting.
Yeah, we don't like using the R word either. No, but like
No R's and no P's. Yeah,
if you're
gotcha.
if you're it's a point of distinction, because for us as a brand is that we want to distinguish ourselves. If you're a recruiter, what you would typically do is you have two tools. You have job platforms and you have, let's say three tools. Job platforms, you have your own network, and you have your database. And the database is built from your the job platforms. So you're essentially building a database and a network off the back of these job platforms, and the job platforms are already not that good. So as a headhunter, we bypass all of that. We still have our database, but our database is built off the back of what we're doing, which is we're looking for the top 1% of talent going straight to the source. And so our database, admittedly, is much, much smaller, much, much smaller than a recruiter because we just don't keep most of the talent in there. We only keep the ones that are tagged top 1% that have been vetted, etc. And that's a very small group of people. Um, so what was your question again? It was
Yeah, that's interesting. You've got better quality, but so find it. Are you cold emailing? You like, we've got these jobs. We're gonna go to a cold database. We're gonna email them. How are you finding? How are you finding them and then hooking them and then landing them?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. So okay, so basically the process in a nutshell is that if you want to find a really good person, let's say you want to find a GTM specialist, like someone who's like really really good at go to market. And let's say you hone in on one specific area of GTM. Let's call it SEO. Like you want to find someone who's real like spanky when it comes to GTM SEO. Yeah, or paid media or something. I think maybe go to market would normally be using something more scalable like paid. Let's say if you want to find a paid media specialist who understands how to do the ad creatives, who understands how to run the ad, but also understands how to build landing pages and test different offerings and whatnot. So they're a real like GTM specialist. Um, well, the first thing we want to do is we want to get really clear on what we're looking for. And so we specify all the requirements of this role and what the responsibilities are going to be, what the KPIs are going to be, write it up as a job description. But the job descriptions that we write are designed to convert, right? Like, sounds silly, but most job descriptions are super boring, very uninspiring. What we try to do is we try to put a lot of personality and warmth into the job descriptions. And you'll see that there's a bit of a thread that goes through the whole process of this warmth theme. I think as the world is going more and more into AI, uh, going away from AI is a real advantage, right? So So we write up these job descriptions, and they're like a masterful work of marketing art. Like they have to. There's research that goes into it. It's copy. So we have to make it feel like what is this person looking for? They're looking for something exciting, but they also want security, and so how do we position this role honestly, truthfully, as something that would be very appealing to the right type of person. And then what we'll do is we'll go out to market, and we'll go to the various platforms like LinkedIn. We go to Behance, and depending on the role, and we find ourselves based on the specific criteria, we find ourselves somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 candidates that we'll review one by one. So we have a team that does this. Obviously, I'm not doing it. And it's a very tiresome, laborious process. But if you work with big numbers, you're going to find good people. So you throw a wide net. These 1,000, 2,000 people should should fit the criteria, but there will be one in there that just is. So the job is to find that one person. So we go through, and then out of those 1,000, 2,000 people, we might engage with 100, 150 people, right? Start having conversations. Oh, this person looks interesting. So you ask questions. What were you doing at this role, or what were you doing at that role? Would you be interested in this job? So we're engaging in a warm conversation with someone who might be interested in working for your company. And then we go a little bit further. We start having interviews with them. So we're having, and the warm. It's there's no AI. We don't do any AI in our communication at all. There's no automations in our communication. It's very high touch, and that's the other thing. Is like if someone reaches out to you in a high touch way, not only does it feel warm, but it also makes you feel like a privilege. Like someone's like specifically outreached to you, and they're a headhunter,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I'm special. And then we formalize their application with a video introduction and all these sort of things, and pass that over to the client. That's usually a list of around 5, 8, maybe candidates, no less than 3, but usually around 8, sometimes 10, but usually around 8 candidates that we think look really, really interesting. So we've gone from 1,000, 2,000 people down to just, let's say, 8 or 7. And the client will have a look at them, and see like, oh, these 4 here look really, really good. Like I want to check those guys out. So then we will develop an aptitude test, like a test, like a comprehensive test that is designed to test their abilities to execute the tasks in line with the job description. So it's a bespoke custom piece for, let's say, a media buyer slash landing. Maybe we want them to design a landing page. Maybe we want them to, in addition to that, take us through a review of a ad account or our ad account, or your ad account, so that you can see how they would like. What's a soft flag for them, or how would they adjust the budget? These types of things, and you can hear when you know what you're doing, you can hear when someone else knows what they're doing. And so if they can do those things, then we present that back to the client. The client will review and go, okay, that guy there, he's all right, but I'm going to pass on him. I want to interview these 3. So he has his, or she has her interviews, and from those interviews, ask a few questions. Maybe there's multiple interviews with a co-founder or something. From that, they should have a pretty good idea who they want to hire. So we go from thousands just to one person, and then there's like 90-day guarantee. If it doesn't go well with that person, and within 90 days they will replace that person for free, and stuff like that. So there's very, very little risk to someone who's hiring.
Wow. 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 So 8 people, and of all of them said like, I'm interested. They've all said they could not say they're all perfect, but you hand them out and then you come. So they've all said they're happy. Do what how much? I don't know how to word this without this coming across as slightly sinister, but with top talent that you can see, say in the UK, there's so much demand for them that they actually control the leverage. like over the over the companies. So how is that with the top talent in the Philippines? Are you finding there's loads of other people, or are you finding that if we can get those three or four to interview, um, as long as we the client like them, that we've got them over the line? Like how's because what I'm just thinking of is you give them the three, the four, and then they end up with no one at the end, and then what happens? Yeah, in that in those situations.
I mean, in the rare circumstance that would transpire, we would just go back to market and find some more. But that's pretty rare, that we would have to go back to market for some reason. But I know the issue that you're referring to. We're talking about two very different markets, right? So in the UK and Australia and the US and Canada and parts of Europe, things have been good for a really long time. Things have been very comfortable. We're a very comfortable group of people, and we're very privileged. And it is a privilege to have that privilege, to be able to turn down a 200,000 a year job plus bonuses. It's a real privilege to have multiple offers on the table, etc. This is not the case as much in the Philippines. In the Philippines, there are times when so the candidates that we present to our clients, they've all said I'm very interested in this role. I want to apply. I am if I got an offer for this much, I would accept that offer. So so chances are pretty high that they're going to stick right to the very end, Um, and so if we present those people to the client, there'll be one in there. The one that they want to hire will take the job gladly, because usually in the Philippines, the people that we're hiring, like the highest earning person, the people that we're hiring in the family, the highest earning person in the family, which is who we're targeting, they pay for everyone else in the family. If Especially as the parents get older and they don't feel like working anymore, and you maybe have like a useless half brother, or like these types of things is very common. So you might have a family of seven, and there's one person who's basically paying for all that. They don't have the luxury that we have, where we can be like, oh well, my wife, she's also working full time and she's earning a high wicket, and like my whole family, they're all doing really really well. It's a very different um, background, so the leverage is considerably less. And so as a result of that, and I guess also a result of the general culture over there, the the demeanor of the hires, or the approach of the hires, is very very different. Where so we have had times where we've run hiring rounds side by side in so like for three roles at a time. Sorry, for three roles we ran hiring in the US and hiring in the Philippines, just to see what the difference is like. Creative strategist was like a performance content creator, and director of customer experience and retention marketing manager. So three roles, high level roles, or significant roles in e-commerce as well. And so we were headhunting in the Philippines, and we were headhunting in the US. And what we were finding was that talent wise, skills and experience, it's like for like. And in the US, we were finding talent from like the top agencies, like really really strong e-commerce agencies, really really strong e-commerce brands, etc. etc. Same thing in the Philippines, really really strong e-commerce agencies, brands, aggregators, and comparing them, and like for like in terms of experience, in terms of the output on the aptitude test, everything was the same, which was like I was a little bit shocked. That the final piece of my racism was squeezed out of me at that point. The underlying kind of inherent racism that we have about these things, that in the US or in Australia the talent is better than everywhere else. It's just not true. Um, the two big differences were obviously cost. It's an obvious one. It's like 75% less cost for the top 1% of talent in the US and the top 1% of talent in the Philippines. Um, but the really big difference, which was the decision making point for this one particular client that we were hiring for, there were big companies, so they didn't care that much about the salaries, was the attitude. the attitude of the American hires was, yeah, I don't know about this job. I'm not really sure. Like, I'm pretty comfortable in my current job, and I don't really want to have to put the effort into this hiring process, and I don't know, like, what are the benefits like, and this type of thing. The Philippine talent, they were like very engaged, very responsive, very open to, very flexible to if we wanted to request an additional interview or anything like this, and that became the final decision point. So that company stopped hiring in the US and started hiring in the Philippines for that reason alone.
Wow. Do you know what? I think that's even bigger than the price. Is like it's just attitude. It's like the impression I get with like top talent over here is is they don't want to stay in one place very long. Like it's like switch, 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 switch. Whereas I imagine like it's people are much more loyal, they're much more engaged, they're much more about yeah. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, Logan, I've got so many questions, and we're like the full hour in. Um, so I'm just trying to think. I don't want to take too much. I don't want to take much more of your time. Let me see if we can just. We're right to just run 5 or 10 minutes, or do we need to?
Yeah, yeah,
Do we
yeah.
need to?
No stress. I'll just check my calendar. Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's
Don't check. Don't change your calendar, mate. I can. We
No, no,
can.
I just checked. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have anything that was directly after this.
Cool. I will. Let's go 5:10, and then we'll definitely finish by 10 parts. Cool. Appreciate that, mate. So just to kind of summarize then. So Bazinga got the traction through kind of word like just speaking to people very hard. We got SEO sitting pretty. You then applied that there. Was that SEO as well that launched it, or did you do some ads as well?
Yeah, I mean, we did run ads, but SEO was actually the big thing. And this was back in the day. Now everyone is doing SEO in e-commerce and stuff. But back then, SEO was not a thing. No one was doing SEO in e-commerce. So coming from an SEO background, I was like, okay, well, let's do one article per week. And so we just started doing this one article every single week. And initially, that was me writing these articles as a man, writing about hair extensions and stuff. And most of them didn't do that well, but some of them just went off to the moon. And and looking back on some of those articles, I'm like, they were bad. Um, but but it really worked. And so at one point, I think we had like 100,000 visitors, or maybe 150,000 visitors from SEO every month, which was huge, because then if you're layering that with paid media, you're getting so much additional lift and efficiency because you've got so much organic traction already. And that was, I guess, probably part of the reason why the business did so well. It did come back a little bit at one point because um, we were maybe more reliant on SEO than what we had realized, and we were not strong in paid media until later. And what the big realization was is that during COVID, um, everyone was at home, and so people are googling, and we saw our SEO traffic just like I think it went up like 50% just over that period. Maybe not that much, maybe like 30 or 40%, and which was really great. And we got the sales from that and stuff, and that was really nice. But then post COVID, it started coming back as well. So it swung all the way back, and that had a negative impact on sales. And so we had to compensate for for that by basically doing paid ads, which is something we should have done early on. It was just like, I don't know what's the word, resting on your laurels. Uh, yeah,
Yeah. You're riding the high, but at the same time, I imagine ecom did well during
yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
um, so and then Willbound, uh, you get in word of mouth like crazy. You've got your LinkedIn personal brand. Um, are you? What's your kind of breakdown in terms of like leads? Like where are your leads coming from? What platforms? What channels? How many do you want coming in? How many are coming in?
Yeah.
Are you running any other channels as well?
Yeah, good question. So I'll knock the obvious question on the head first. SEO, I have not been doing SEO is because I hadn't kind of like I hadn't come to a conclusion on where I thought the SEO industry was going. And I sort of thought that maybe LLMs were going to crush SEO, but I think that there's a world now where SEO and LLMs can coexist. And so,
Yeah.
the this year we'll start doing SEO, but I won't be writing the articles. Maybe some of the early ones, but yeah, it's very time consuming, you know. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. Something about I learned about yourself is like is actually like it is you know like it is good to ride it. It is good to spot trends. Like what's the point investing energy into something where you're uncertain about its future? And I kind of had I kind of felt the same. But it's interesting that you did that, and now you're thinking, look, it's pretty safe. Let's ramp up. Interesting. Couple. Let's do not. Let's do just some quick fire questions like blitz. Where did you meet and correct me, is it Melanie? Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
Melanie.
pronouncing it right. So did you meet in Estonia, and then also like what's it like working with your wife, and then what lessons have you kind of learned about what makes a great co-founder out of that as well?
Yeah, yeah. So we met in Estonia at a. She was working for a company called Mind Valley. The guy who owns the company, his name is Vishen Lakiani. He's like, like some people know him. Like he's very well known in certain circles. And he was my neighbor. So I just got invited along to this house, to this office party, and there she was, and it was like this. I was like, "Yep, that's the woman. She's the one," and she felt the same way. So, which was very fortunate. Um, and what's it like working with my wife? So we have very different working styles. Like as you've probably noticed, I'm like go with the flow, kind of like gun ho, just do stuff and then see what happens. And I'm kind of lazy in my approach. Like I'm very motivated, but also like I don't want to. I don't like doing repetitive tasks, and and so I'm leaning more into what I know is right for me, like works for me. And fortunately, she's the complete opposite. So she is highly organized, very planned, meticulous with detail, and she doesn't mind doing repetitive tasks so long as it has the certain outcome, and she's very disciplined in those ways, in those things. So in terms of like a partnership, is the perfect partnership. Is absolutely perfect. Like we talk about it all the time. Like it's amazing how like perfect this partnership is. But it also causes tension because I come at something from one angle, and from her perspective that might look really messy, and from my perspective her approach might seem like very anal tangent, like she's like an organization Nazi or something. I don't know if we can use that word, but she can come across that way to me, and I come across as like a cowboy to her. But when you put those issues aside, when you set aside your own biases, you look at the bigger picture. You go, oh, actually, the reason why we have this company is because I was dumb enough and bold enough to just go for it. The reason why it works so efficiently is because she's meticulous enough to kind of like whip it into line. And so yeah, it's been an amazing partnership, the best partnership I've ever had in my life. Especially because you're working with someone who cares about you so deeply, and what's right for you and what's best for you, and doesn't let you do things that might be harmful to you, like overworking and these types of things. So it's really really nice, and we're very like on the same page with what we want.
Nice. Yeah, the next Alex and Layla. And do you know what, the other thing as well? I've been thinking about like what makes a perfect part, and it's like you've got complementary skills which you've got, but then you've got value alignment because you can't be partnered with someone who you haven't got the value alignment with, and then like the same kind of long term vision, and but and then also you both have to have a growth mindset because you can't always think that you're right as well. And I think like it sounds like you've got all of those kind of things. So um, I think Yeah, I don't want to take too much more time. So, final question then: where can people connect with you, Logan, and where can people learn more about Willbound?
Yeah. Well, so sorry. Well, there was one other question you asked before, which I think I accidentally skimmed over, which was where are the leads coming from? And
That's it.
yeah, if you still want me to answer that question.
Yes, please. Where are the leads coming from, and where will the leads come from in the future? Let's just expand it a little bit.
Yeah, so at the moment the leads are definitely like very reliant on me, and it's like this. So I do all this stuff on LinkedIn, and I have already a network of people and founders and friends that I interact with, and so there is like this so slow trickle of leads coming from that network. Then I interact a lot on LinkedIn. Like I probably spend an hour on there every day. Aside from when shit hits the fan and I forget. But I'll spend some time on LinkedIn and talking to people like yourself, and my intention there is not to try to like sell my products or services to people, but just to connect and have interesting conversations and get to know people. And one thing leads to another, and that person might send me a lead, and then let's say if we have this conversation, maybe you'll like come across an e-commerce person as a result of this podcast, and who you're going to send them to is probably to me, right? So I'm just on LinkedIn trying to make friends and sharing my learnings and mistakes and stuff. um, and then those leads that I have received or have spoken to, and as well as clients who we worked with, we get a shit ton of referrals from them. So I'd say of all the leads that we get, it's probably 90% referrals, and but the backbone of what ultimately generates those referrals, um, what has built that network of people, is LinkedIn. And I think that LinkedIn is just a wonderful tool. I think the app is like total piece of shit. Like, I think it's just it's a wonderful tool because it's a way that all the people that I know that are in my sphere become I can stay at the top of their mind just by interacting and by posting content and stuff. So I think it's just a really, really good tool for that. And then how many leads do I want? Honestly, I don't want too many leads. Like it becomes a problem sometimes where we get booked out like a month or 6 weeks in advance, and that creates a negative experience for the clients, and it creates a bit of tension. I prefer like two leads per week, maybe that would be more than enough. Usually it's more than that. But 2 weeks, two per week. And then what fills up our roster mostly is existing clients coming back for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh hire. So yeah, we have a really high retention as well, which is nice.
Yeah, it just comes back like there's nothing better than a great product. Like it just that is the ultimate North Star. And then just on what you said is one of the reasons I wanted to speak to you was when you always know I always notice being like when people DM you, it's like this guy's a bit different, and then it just comes back to people do business people they know, like, and trust, and obviously connection requests we know and then we start to see your content, we know you a little bit more, we like you. I think what something you said earlier about not liking the person you used to be, and kind of how you've transitioned, like we see that a lot in your content, like that humility, I think, and like saying, "Oh, I made this decision, once upon a time." And then I think something you said as well. I think a lot of people do outreach and they say they've got good intentions, but they don't. But what I got from you when you spoke to me was you were just genuinely curious to like learn and connect. And then you've come on the podcast today. We've asked you a bunch of technical questions. Okay, we know you're an expert. Like this is it's very clear he knows what he's doing. And you kind of ticked all those three boxes. And then it just becomes a case of when doing this over and over again. So yeah, I've kind of been really impressed with that whole with kind of how you do it, and it's very non-salesy, and I really like it, and I think it's quite different. So I just wanted to end on that note. But we'll drop your LinkedIn in the comments. We'll grab your website as well. Is there any other links, Logan, you'd like to add?
LinkedIn and the website. Yeah, willbound.com. Yeah.
That's it. Awesome. Thanks for coming on today, mate.
No,
Been a
thank
pleasure.
you for having me. I really appreciate it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit my big fat head through the door now when I leave after that final comment, but I really, really appreciate it.